Hi, I'm Larissa.
And I'm Rebecca.
And we're just creatives coming alongside you to learn and grow on our journey to success.
And this is Broke at the Oscars.
Booyah!
A special edition of Broke at the Oscars, obviously, because we are not in the same room. You want to explain why that is, Larissa?
I'm physically with our guest. Hello, hi. Kenzie Harris.
Special guest went all the way to you. I mean, technically not, because not at your house.
No.
Yeah, this is we're currently in the house where we're staying because we're working on a film set together. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
On site.
Yeah. Everybody's having a pool party and we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, you guys sacrificed your day off to be part of the podcast.
I was napping.
You were She was like sprawled out napping. Anyway, well, Mackenzie, would you mind just telling us a little bit about you, what you do in film, a little bit about your backstory?
Microphone. Hello. I do a lot of different things in film. From what I understand, you wanted to talk a little bit more of what I do with graphics and web design. I have my own business to do graphics and web design, and when I'm not on a film set or working a film project, that's generally what I'm doing. I love design. Most of what I do is in some way related to design, whether it's wardrobe design or layout design or web design or just anything with design attached at the end. It's kind of my jam. And so a lot of computer work, a lot of creative work. I love working with other people who just have incredible visions and then turning those into reality.
That's very cool.
Multiple mediums. So
that's awesome. Well, thanks for being here. I'm excited to talk to you about this and get into it a little bit. Could you start by just telling us a little bit about like how you got into design, like what, because I know like a lot of filmmakers, start out wanting to either like direct or act, and I know you've also done some acting, but like what was that process like of discovering your love for design?
Okay. There's two stories to that. First story, I've always loved anything related with art, and ever since I was really little, I would just be scribbling away on paper and painting, and I had a little booklet that my mom found, I think that I did when I was like 4, that had clothing designs. Ooh. So that's kind of where that started. And I always loved it. I've never been a very like clothing centric person. Like most of the time I just wear what's comfortable, but I like dressing other people up.
Amen.
But as far as artwork, anything art related, I would fiddle around with the old, I don't know if anyone remembers the Microsoft Suite 2000, like CD-ROM thing that you could download. Yeah, I would get up some mornings at like 4 a.m. to just play with it. And I didn't even know it was called graphic design at that point. I was like, ooh, I can make an e-card. I can make labels. So that was kind of that journey. The way I actually got into it and started using it as like, or, growing it as a career choice, a life skill, a source of income. I applied for a lab job at an ortho office.
An orthopedics?
Orthodontics.
Orthodontics.
Interesting.
An orthodontist office.
So there was a spot open to apply to work in the lab, to take impressions and make retainers and stuff like that.
That's
artistic.
And
I applied, and they're like, "Oh, you're young. You can do our social media. Can you design stuff for social media?" And I'm like, "I need a job." So I said yes.
Oh my, that's awesome.
And I thought, I think I know how to do this. And I jumped in with both feet, and I did eventually do retainers and stuff and worked in the lab. That was fun.
Wow.
But it kind of launched me into designing stuff, like first for social media, posts, and then it just expanded from there. And because of that experience, I started working with an overseas missions to do web and graphic design. So I kind of just learned on the job and just continued growing my skill set to, working with WordPress, working with, Adobe Illustrator, with, all the big name tools that most people work with at this point. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was a little unexpected. The passion was there, the interest was there, but as far as actually doing it as a work, it was unexpected. I just wanted to work in the lab.
Nice.
Originally. I love it now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So in terms of like one particular role in film, what generally do you do? Because I know you also do like wardrobe and stuff too.
Usually in film, I do wardrobe design.
Okay.
I've been doing wardrobe design for the past 8 years. I started in theater. I was the wardrobe manager / mentor on staff for a couple years for a local community theater where I lived. And then God just opened some amazing doors with the film community, and I made some amazing connections with the Willers to start with, and then it just expanded from there, and now I'm on a set with more amazing filmmakers doing more wardrobe. And I kind of completely switched over to film, doing wardrobe design for film. So I do from the base to the finish. So I start with the concept artwork. I like to start ahead of time in pre-production and really get the vision of the film, the characters, the story, the whole I like working with different departments to understand what they're seeing so it is cohesive. And then, if it's a modern film, it's more, you pull pieces together. Whereas if it's a period film, which I love, or something, that has a little more scope for like control over actual design and construction, then I like really getting into it and designing, sketching and concept art, and then going into construction and actually creating the pieces, sewing them and fitting them. So the whole 9 yards.
That's cool. That's awesome.
That's so kind of my passion in film. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for like, would you ever make any wardrobe for a modern film, or is that all like?
I would.
Okay. Like, walk me through that process. How do you decide if you're gonna make something or try and find it?
Well, if I can't find it, then I'll make it.
Okay, there you go.
That's pretty much it.
That's cool.
Or if there's a very specific, if there's an emblem that needs to be on it, a company logo, then I switch into graphic design, and that tends to be more for modern stuff. I'll jump in and like customize certain pieces for a more modern wardrobe. Nice. Sometimes, depending on what it is, I can make modern wardrobe. I prefer period wardrobe, but generally with modern stuff, you can find what you're looking for. Yeah. And that helps with budget. So
sure. Yeah. Right.
But generally, if you can't find it, then you make it.
Nice. So is it generally more expensive to make something than it is to buy something? I know it's kind of a broad question, but
it's a good question. It depends on what it is. Okay. It depends on the time period. There is a line at which certain items you could probably find them. You could source them on Etsy. But at that point, what you would be doing is you would be essentially finding another designer who has designed it, and their cost is going to be the same as you doing it. So it's the trade-off. And if you want control over exactly what it looks like, then at that point you would probably want to work directly with a designer and start from the beginning. Start from the very beginning versus trying to piece some things and once it hits that cost.
And because I think we talked to Betsy a while back about wardrobe as well, and she had mentioned something about like worrying about like copyright or design, like the copyright of a design. So like if you were to hire someone through Etsy or something like that, do you just like put them under contract to where you have permission to use that design, or like how do you work through that?
Yes. Obviously, if it's like a vintage piece, because that's another thing too. Like with some period wardrobe, you can find. I'm leaning towards period because that's probably where you would start looking for stuff like that. You know, if it's something vintage or whatever, and it's already exists as is, and it's from the time period, you know, then there's the aspect of wanting to take care of that. And, you know, it's not just another costume piece. It has its own history too. Yeah. That's kind of a care in that case. If it is a custom design from like a third-party designer that you would be ordering from Etsy, you would want to be in contact with them and be making sure with them that they are okay. In effect, you are hiring them as a designer, even if the piece has already been designed and created, and you're just like, oh, this looks great for the film, can we use this? You would still want to acknowledge that person as a designer. Gotcha. Because at that point, that's their brand, that's their design in that sense. If it's a like an independent designer, obviously, if you go to Target and get, you know, some pieces of clothing, I don't think those companies are going to care. Yeah, it's true. They're not going to come and sue you.
Especially if it's like a simple, like normal piece and it doesn't have a logo. Yeah. Like everyone makes a t-shirt.
Yeah, main thing, again, steer away from logos in your wardrobe on set. Yeah.
So apart from wardrobe design, when you're doing art design and with a lot of the graphic art and even down to like building websites, I think you worked with like a lot of graphics on this show you did. When in the process do they bring you on, and who are you mainly talking to?
Again, that depends on the production, and it depends on how early I come on to the production. Some productions, ideally, I would say if it's any kind of art, like if it's design related, if you're designing something from the ground up, the sooner you can include the designer, in my opinion, the better. Because then, you know, then there's that process of, like I said, capturing the vision. So a lot of times I like to start working with the director as soon as possible. The writer, if available, and if they're a part of the production, and the production designer. Those would be the three people that I would want to be in contact with as soon as possible. And again, as far as answering how early, as soon as possible, it depends on the project. It depends on what's being asked. Yeah. If you contact me or another designer the night before and it's like, can we have a full website by tomorrow? We're shooting. That's a little bit much, but I know some people who could pull it off. So it's relevant. Not relevant? Relative. Relative. It's a relevant art.
That seems to be the answer of like everyone that we ask that question to. It's like, oh, how early do you get brought in? And everyone's like, as soon as possible. Like, please, the more time,
if it's a year
better.
Ahead. If you're just in the
5 years
concept
of pre-production,
stage.
please. Yeah.
Oh my word. Oh my word.
Yeah. Like kind of as soon as you have the concept or the image in your mind that's like, could we start thinking about this? It's like, talk to your designer.
Yeah.
They'll thank you for it.
Yeah, totally. That's cool.
Yeah. So talking to people who want to get into design work, what are some of the basic things that they need to know and educate themselves on, and what's a step they can take to further them in that career?
I think, oh gosh, the best advice I can give, and this would probably be to any artist in any capacity, whatever medium you're using, just go for it. Seriously. It sounds very cliche. It sounds very abstract, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try a new program. Don't be afraid to download Adobe Illustrator and play with it. I mean, you're not going to break the program.
I hope not.
If you do, there's tutorials on how to fix it, or you can take it off and re-download it and reset it. I did that once.
That's good.
I had to. Don't be afraid. There's when I started and I heard big names like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop and several others that are out there, I was a little bit it can be intimidating. You're like, oh, that's what the pros use. Oh, this is what.
Yeah.
But really, it's like any other tool. It's like, walking in, it's like picking up a paintbrush and a watercolor palette and just playing with it. Just play. Don't be afraid to play. Experiment. Don't be afraid of failing, because the only way you're going to fail is if you give up.
That's good. That's good.
It's the only, really if you keep trying, you keep growing your skill set and challenge yourself, really challenge yourself. Sometimes I like to challenge myself with new projects. So like, I like to have actual stakes where I'm like, I need to have this done at a certain point and I need to have it done a certain way. So I like to have real life stakes. Other ways, if you're easing into it, challenge yourself on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, to try a certain art style, to try a certain design style, to learn a new aspect of it. Like for web design, I use a lot of visual builders because it's a very straightforward way to kind of get a lot of stuff on a page. But there's some things with programming that I'm not perfectly comfortable with. I don't want to be a programmer, but I want to be more comfortable with it. Yeah. So I'm challenging, myself to, hey, spend a little time learning a skill set and just keep growing. Yeah. Don't be afraid to play.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really great advice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I spent thousands of dollars at Texas Roadhouse last year, so I also like steaks.
There we go. Me too.
Wait. I was gonna make a joke about with hammer and steaks.
Protein steaks.
The metal steaks that you put up a tent. No, don't.
Oh my goodness.
Don't forget to eat. That's another one.
When
you're working, do not forget to eat.
That's good advice for anyone who works, even in post-production or anything. Don't forget to eat.
You are not a machine. You need food.
Yeah, Rebecca will be holed up in her room, and I'm like, "Have you eaten?" She's like,
"Oh, I know.
No."
I get people. My family.
I had a fruit snack earlier.
Yeah.
My family will knock on the door please tell me.
Please tell me that you
had
something
no.
to eat.
I literally.
Oh, maybe it was you that I was actually talking to.
It could be. I work late at night. I have a very different schedule than most other people. I work at night, and at 2 a.m. sometimes my mom will come and knock on the door. Or if I'm staying with other people, please tell me you had something more than coffee today.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's very wholesome.
Good reminder. Thank you.
That's great.
Coffee, as much as we love it, it's not a meal replacement. It is not.
No, unless you put those protein shake powder. Ooh. If you put that in your coffee, then it counts as a meal.
I've never done that.
That sounds really terrible.
Hack.
I don't know.
I don't know that I would recommend that.
Maybe don't listen to Rebecca.
Yeah, probably don't. Since I don't drink coffee. Yeah, probably don't listen to me on that.
Then you have no grounds to suggest.
Oh my goodness.
You have no grounds. You have no grounds.
This was really good. Kenzie, could you talk a little bit about how do you go about building a portfolio for this type of job? Because I know you do such a variety of different things, and some of it might be just a website that someone kind of scrolls past in a film. So how do you sort of capture that to present to people, to show them your work?
I would suggest, because there's a lot of ways to do it. I've seen a lot of different people do it different ways. What I personally decided was, I'm graphic designing for other people and I'm helping other people build their brands. So let me step back and build my brand.
Yeah.
Treat yourself as your own client. That's something that I feel has really helped me.
Yeah.
And again, I'm still, I worked for a different company for a while. And so last year was the time for me to actually focus on my own work and focus on my own branding. But that was one of the biggest things that I feel I walked away with last year personally. Was just treat myself as if I was a client and, walk through the questions of, okay, why do I do what I do? What exactly is it that I do? Who do I work with? And how, what am I bringing to the table? Because anytime you build a portfolio, especially within this field, in this community, everybody I know, everybody I've met is multi-talented to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And very skilled at all of those multi-talents. I mean, there's the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. I know a lot of people who are jack of all trades and master of every single one of them. To some extent. So, to some extent, like, I do a lot of things, and I did start my own business. That's one thing that I like to point out to people. It's very easy to start your business, get your branding down. You want to get the legal stuff straight for the state you're in.
Yeah.
That is important. Don't forget that. Yeah. Make sure you're legal. And then, especially if you're going to have an online platform other than Facebook. If you have a Facebook platform, that's okay. You can cut some corners, probably. Someone might get upset with me for saying that. But if you have, if you're actually going to present with a website and a name other than your own personal name, then you probably need to make sure that you have the legal stuff back there. So that's more on the practical side as far as that goes. Square that away and really take the time to know who you are. Just as if you were talking to another client, get to know yourself. And, that can be an interesting process. It can be a process of growth because you can start out thinking, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. Yeah. Who did God create you to do? What does he want you to do? Where is he leading you? And let him guide that process. Let him show you who you are. Let him show you your why. Let him guide that. That is very important, regardless of whatever it is you do. Nail those down, work your branding, with graphic design in my case, and with what I do. I built my own website. I centered it. I chose a few skill sets that I did that I, by trial and error, was like, okay, you know what? This is stuff I enjoy doing. This is something that I'm being asked to do. This is, it's fulfilling. This is, I have a why behind it. And it's all design related. And so I kind of played with it and then pared it down to design. So wardrobe design, website design, graphic design. So wardrobe is maybe the odd one out, but it's a large part of what I do. Yeah. And underlying for me was I catch other people's visions and turn that into reality. So I tie them all together. You can narrow it down to one. But again, I'm going to say this, just like, don't be afraid to play. Don't get locked into a box either. I know it's very good to find your niche, but at the same time, it's okay to have variety. It's okay to be a flexible person, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, totally.
So that was a little bit more maybe to the question, but
yeah. No, that was a great
the legal
answer.
requirements. And treat yourself as your own client.
Can you say your little saying again? Like that sums
my little saying.
Your tagline for your business.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
How did I say that?
Something about making your dreams a reality.
Yeah. So basically, I catch other people's visions and turn them into reality.
That's awesome.
Really awesome. I like that.
That's great.
Those are really practical steps that I feel like, any department really can use, but then even like acting and stuff, that's super important. Like the building your brand. And I think a friend was talking to me about just knowing who I am and like what I bring to the table as an actor, and like that's super important. But I think it's just very interesting when you see all these artists, and there's art to like every department, but especially like these specific like designing departments and jobs, like it's very applicable to.
It's applicable to everything.
Really.
I used it, and I actually worked with NATO for a while, working through something very similar for an overseas missions organization. So
there you go.
It's a mindset that's very applicable to every aspect of life. In business, in some cases in personal life. And it's a lot of people think branding is, what is my logo? What are my colors? What's the design? That's tempting to jump directly into that because that's like the fun part. It's like, ooh, I get to design something for myself or whatever. But you really want to know the underlying, the who you are, what it is you do, who you work with, why you do it. Ultimately, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And it's okay to like start with something and you're like, mean,
experiment.
This is making me money, but like you're working towards something else.
No, seriously, have fun with it. That's why I said, you don't want to get stuck in a box. I know so many people who get so scared. They're like, oh, what if I do the wrong thing? What if I whatever? What if I'm wasting my time? And it's like, and I've had some people ask me like, well, I'm not sure I should do this. It's something I enjoy, but what if I end up wasting time on it? And I'm like, okay, is it a skill you have? Is it something you enjoy? Is it providing value? It's kind of, several questions like that. Yeah. And as you answer them all, then you come to the point of like, well, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Even if it's something that like, I don't know, when I started doing web design, it was not on my horizon. It was part of a job. It was interesting, but I couldn't see where it was leading. To me, it was kind of like, why am I learning this skill when I first started learning it? But every single time that has happened in my life and that I've allowed myself, unless of course you feel like, oh, you know what, you have really strong feeling that I really shouldn't be doing this or for whatever reason.
Right.
Then unless you have a very good reason for not investing in it, like if you're looking at it and you're like, that's very clearly not a direction that I feel God is leading me, you want to make sure ultimately kind of what you're doing that you want to have a peace about it. But if you have the opportunity to learn a new skill, you're integrating it into it's like having a tool belt. And sometimes you don't always know when you're going to need that tool. Yeah. And as time goes on and, you might find yourself in a different place in life, working with different people. Yeah. And you need that skill. Yeah. It'll be available. You'll know how to use it and you're a much more well-rounded person.
Yeah. And that's something I found that to be so true, even just in like the post-production world. Just like every time I learn something or like spend some time, researching something or whatever because of a specific job that I'm working on, it always like ends up being that some like interest that I've had recently like comes into play.
Oh yeah.
And it's like I had no idea that I was going to need to know this specific thing for this job. But that's just, it's just, I guess, like God guiding and just like, here, learn this skill. And then it's suddenly useful, So yeah, pursue what you enjoy learning about too. Like, yeah, that's really great.
I think he has fun with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because ultimately we are his design. So he keeps adding. It's like, ooh, let me build this into you. Yeah. Let me show you this. Let me teach you this.
Really cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. That's awesome. And I mean, it's true too that like in the other respect that sometimes certain jobs will force you to learn something new, and that's even it becomes sometimes stressful,
like yesterday.
But like also really good.
Yeah,
I had to make a toilet paper dress for a scene. Never done it in my life.
She did an amazing job. She was like a Met Gala dress.
That's amazing.
I mean, I had some input, but she was like making like panels and anyway, it's
a new
amazing.
Skill.
Awesome.
I'm putting that on my resume.
Yeah, put it on there. That's great. That's awesome. Speaking of tools, Kenzie, do you want to tell us what is your favorite tool in the tool shed? And that can be, it's kind of a broad question. It could be something literal, like you could say Photoshop, or if it's something more like metaphorical. I know you've kind of talked about a few things, but yeah, is there like one thing that you either use in every project or something that's just your favorite thing to use? Yeah. What's your favorite?
Because I do a lot of different things, I'm going to choose a couple different tools that are my favorite. Honestly, the first one, regardless of whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's graphic design, web design, wardrobe design, concept art, whatever, a good pad of paper and a pencil.
Amen.
I like, I mean, that's where it starts. If you're a visual, especially if you're a visual artist, being able to visualize stuff and externalize it and see it and like physically play with it, that's one of the main things that I love. If it's not a physical notepad and pencil, I got used to using an iPad and a stylus. That's also great. Get a good drawing app, something like Procreate, or Autodesk Sketchbook is free, and that's one of the coolest, drawing programs out there.
Nice.
And it's free completely.
Yeah. Nice.
Autodesk is amazing. So, that's great for just starting, getting your concept down. So that would be my ultimate favorite tool for any project, really.
Nice.
Of this type. Couple different select tools. If someone's interested in web design, I would highly recommend learning the WordPress system.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a beast at first and a little intimidating, but there are it's worth knowing. It's worth learning. And there are some things that make it more accessible and user-friendly. I would suggest looking into Elementor. It's a drag and drop builder, speeds things up and gives you complete control over every aspect without having to know a single line of code.
Nice.
So,
nice.
yes,
like something I
check
need.
that out if you're interested in web design. If you're interested in graphic design, should do commercials. I would highly suggest Canva.
Canva.
Yeah.
Just ow.
Oh no.
Sorry.
Wow, you got really excited about that.
I forgot we were connected.
We have an enthusiastic convert, people.
That's so great.
I was using Canva.
Canva's incredible.
Yeah.
It is also free unless you start doing a lot and needing a lot of, different, what are they called? Like elements, whatever.
Yeah. I mean,
it comes
they're super cheap though too.
Yeah, it comes with, it's a program, and you basically type in canva.com, sign up, and you can do all kinds of graphic design stuff right off the bat for anything, any format. It's a lot of, what's it called? It's not in the free domain. It's copyright,
Public domain.
Public domain.
Copyright free. Yeah.
Graphic elements that you can incorporate, and you can create a very good graphic design for if you're doing a film shoot or if you're designing menus or whatever, it's really good for that. You can upload your own designs. It's a very good layout app. That's probably one of my favorite layout programs if you're not using like the Adobe suite. Again, the Adobe suite, hands down. Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop. If you're a graphic designer, those are key.
Yeah.
Even if your client does not, particularly use them or you're working with another, it's good to know them. I guarantee you will want to know them.
Yeah.
A little bit of a learning curve, but again, YouTube is your best friend.
Oh yeah. There's so much out there. Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah. So those would probably be my three favorite, and then my sewing machine, my trusty sewing machine. But that's.
Yeah. Oh, you don't sew by hand?
I do sometimes. It depends on the project.
That was a joke, but also
yes, I do.
Yes, I do that.
It depends on the project.
Was the toilet paper dress, was that hand sewn or?
We did tape.
Tape. Okay.
We did tape.
Nice.
Yeah,
because we had to do it in like 20 minutes. And we're like, so this is a toilet paper challenge, and we need one that looks terrible and one that looks stunning. And I was like, does anybody have tape?
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
Amazing.
It's actually pretty decent. It was pretty decent.
So
nice.
Yes.
Cool. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
Sorry,
great
I
answer.
can't pick a favorite.
Yeah, no, that's, as you said,
favorite
you
is
do so
just
many things. Like, that's really great. It's hard to narrow it down. But yeah.
Foundational, though.
Yes.
Pad of paper and a pencil. Just
Yeah.
It can't die on you either.
It can run out of paper, though, or ink.
Yeah.
So.
You always have your wrist, though. You can write on that.
But what if your pen runs out of ink?
Well,
go on.
I guess you could use your blood.
A box of pens. I mean, technically, yes. That's
available. What if you run out of blood? Okay,
then you're dead and you don't have to worry
This might have gotten a little bit dark.
This went too
thanks,
far.
Rebecca.
I'm sorry.
I'm always here to make things too dark.
morbid and slightly uncomfortable.
Yep, just a little uncomfortable.
This podcast is rated R for graphic violence.
I was going for PG-13, but
we were gonna do graphic design, but we took a turn.
PG-13.
But we did graphic violence instead. Well,
Well,
I'm sure there are many other questions we could ask you, but we do unfortunately need to wrap this up because we do have some other things that we got to get to this evening. So I know this is a little bit of a shorter podcast, but thank you so much for taking time to talk to us, Kenzie. Appreciate your
absolutely
expertise.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. Could you?
No problem.
I know you've talked a lot about like, you know, your website and different things, but is there a way that people can follow you or your work? Like, do you want to give your website or social media or anything like that?
Currently, I'm not using. I do have an Instagram. Currently, I'm not using it. I will be creating a more updated Instagram soon. And you can drop that in whenever. But I do have a website. It's pillarandoak.com. It's PILLER. No, AR.
I was wondering.
And
AND
OAK.com.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's probably the best way to see examples of my work, to see kind of some other things I've worked on, maybe stay a little up to date. I'm not the best at posting on Facebook, but you can find me and friend me under what is it, Kenzie Lee on Facebook, and
Cool.
there should be a profile picture of me. So
Nice.
This face. Oh,
That's awesome.
it's
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't do a whole lot of social media at this point.
Yeah.
So mostly
I'm
my
the
website.
exact same way. In fact, just the other day, because, you know, this is like doing a video podcast is kind of a new thing. This is our only our second episode doing that. And I had to figure out the other day how to post a video to Instagram. And it was like a bit of a process. And also, I accidentally posted it to my personal account instead of the podcast. So then I had to figure out how to delete it and then how to post it properly.
Yeah.
It was a whole thing, but we got there.
I'm sorry, Rebecca.
But I understand not using social media very much. But yeah. But again, thank you so much for taking time to be here and talk with us. This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot, and it's been good to catch up with you. So
yeah, this is really, really good.
Yeah.
So many good things.
Yes. All the good things.
I'm glad.
And thank you to our listeners and viewers. Now you have seen us.
Like you. Thank you.
Viewers like you. I love that.
And until next time,
see you on set.
we'll see you on set.